week we're going to get into translating technical information to a general audience, right? That's called like a lay persons, lay people, lay audiences, general audiences, or non-special, right? There's a lot of terms to describe like general readers, okay? So this is a crucial skill in technical writing, right? And again, if I had to define technical writing, it's simplifying the complex, right, for general readers. But also sometimes, technical writing is specialist writing to specialists. So we're going to do a press release this week, and we're going to do a simplified form, 1 to 1.5 pages, double spaced, and I'm going to show you some examples. I'll show you exactly how to approach this. So pay real close attention to the step-by-step process. So you'll see that under the first thing at the head of this week, right? Do press release. And then we have a mid-quarter self-assessment, which I'll go over in a second. That's where you self-assess your work in this class. That's where you give yourself a grade and justify it based off of the work that you've done, right? So I'll get to that a little bit later. So you also have a reading on how to write a press release and, more generally, translating technical discussions. So all of these readings are going to help you write this press release. But let me show you a really clear, simple, hopefully helpful example. So, get your tea, get your coffee, whatever you need. So the first thing you want to do is read our readings on how to write a press release, right? So you've got this great reading that breaks it down, okay? So in a second, I'm going to go to Google Scholar and find research, discoveries that just came out, right? That's what a press release does. Research or discoveries are made by the scientific community or, sociology, humanities, right? Any field. And a press release breaks it down. It takes it from like that specialized language and puts it into everyday language. So think of this as, I love the advice of, you want to speak as if you're telling your friend about something you just learned, right? Like, oh, friend, I just heard about this discovery of these 7 planets, right? And you want to make it in, right, that simple language. So when you find your article, which we'll go through in a second, you need to look for what is timely or topical or interesting or relevant. I'm going to show you an article and you're going to be like, what? Who cares? No, what does that mean? Nobody cares. That's not important to me. That's in another language, basically, like of English, right? It's like such specialist astronomer English language, right? It's heavy jargon. It's unreadable, essentially, to except a few people on this planet. So I chose a really good one. But it's my job, right, think of yourself as a journalist. Think of yourself as a translator or HR that is really translating a really technical document so that everyone can understand, right? So my job is to take this really sort of impossible and imposing new discovery and to make it relevant to you, right? To make it, give it a human interest angle. That's it, folks. That is all you are doing here is you are taking something complex and you are showing how it relates, how it's relevant to your mom or your grandma or your aunt or your uncle or your cousin or your daughter. Does that make sense? Like, you have to make this relevant and give it a human interest angle. That is what a press release does, right? You're breaking down all this complex information and you're saying, hey, look how this is relevant. Look at this unique angle, right? Look how this has an element of controversy, right? Humans love controversy. So you could put it in the, right? So I'm just going through all of these categories that will help you give an angle, right? Or make what you've chosen relevant. Okay, so go through this. There's a lot of simplified good information here, right? About how to translate the article, how to write it. You also have to answer, right? Who discovered what? What are we talking about, right? Where is this? When did this happen? Why is this important? How did they discover this, right? So I'll try to answer all of that with my chosen article in a second. Okay, so let me go to my chosen article. So I went to Google Scholar, right? So first step, go to Google Scholar. Second step, plug in something that you're interested in. I plugged in astronomy, TRAPPIST-1, planetary system, because I've been reading a lot about this lately, so I plugged in more specialized words. But I could have just plugged in like astronomy, new discovery, astronomy, new research, astronomy, astronomical, planets, right? I could have just plugged in any of those terms. And then you want to hit, see on the side here, you can custom date range. You want to go since at least 2022, right? This is going to only look at things that were published in the last 2 years, right? 2022 or 2023, right? Something just came out. So this is the latest research, the latest discovery, the newest, right? The boldest, right? So I've got a bunch of stuff that just came out on this weird, right, solar system, right, that is, 7 light years away? So I've got my article, right, and it's new. It came out in 2022. So this is research that, right, the news media usually takes a few years to break something down, right? It can happen really quickly, but on some things that are really dense, right, it can take several years. So this is my article, and it's from the Journal of Planetary Science. It had a bunch of authors. Again, it just came out. And, right, we can look at, there's a lot of data here. Planetary configuration, semi-major axis, obliquity, installation, planet revolving orbital climate keys, right? And then it gets into a lot of data, and you're like, what does this mean, right? So this is a great article, right? And so I read through this. I really relied on the conclusion and the results and the abstract to really understand what was going on. But there's also like a lot of, images here. So, my mom would be like, what is, who cares? What does any of this mean? Thermal long wave fluxes, right? I can just, right? So I want to sell this to my mother, right? What's the human angle value here? So I'm like, okay, right? I read it. This is new research. So I sort of put this away. I'm like, how am I going to give this relevance or human interest angle? So I pull up an image of the TRAPPIST-1 system. So folks, welcome to the TRAPPIST-1 system. As you can see, come on, don't do that. Where is that? Sorry, I want this exact image because it's so interesting. Okay, well, that's the best we're going to get. So as you can see, there are 7 planets in this nearby star system, and they're all potentially habitable. They're all within the Goldilocks zone. So as you can see, we have Mercury, Venus, right, Earth, and Mars. They've got 7 planets jammed into a really tight space. So, and the star is a dwarf star, so it's not as hot as our star. So you can cram all these extra planets around it, right? And it's all so. Let me make it the human interest angle, right? We are exhausting this planet. We're destroying this planet. If we want a literal viable alternative, it's not Mars. Mars is not habitable, people, right? It's star systems like TRAPPIST-1, right, where there are 7 potential Earths. And in fact, TRAPPIST F and G are considered super Earths. They're bigger, they could be wetter, they could be lusher, packing more life, right? So we've got bigger, better Earths just a few star systems away in TRAPPIST-1, right? So do you hear the human interest angle, the relevancy, right? Just me interpreting this data, right? Our best bet is TRAPPIST-1 system, not Mars, right? Not Europa, not the moon. We have 7 potential near Earths nearby. So that's why this is relevant. That's the human interest angle. It's controversial because, well, how are we going to get there? Well, NASA is currently working on faster than light warp drives, like they literally are. So this could possibly happen within this generation or next generation, right? So it is within our grasp, right? And these 7 Earths, right? If we burn out this one, this is our best bet. So that's my human angle, my relevance, the controversy. The who would be right. Let me go back to my who. We have a lot of so we've got the American Astronomical Society. All these astronomers from that society worked on this, right? That's the who. What, right? This major discovery of a local star system with all of these super Earths, right? That's the what. Who, what, where, right? It's nearby. When, we just discovered this. In our planet, we may, with all the war and catastrophe, right? We need an alternative. Who, what, where, when, why, how, right? How did we study this? That's something I left out. So in order to get all this data that we have actually on these 7 planets, we use the James Webb Telescope, which is a new infrared telescope, right? So it studies the infrared, right? It's not visible light. So we're getting a lot more data from this new telescope that just went live in December, right? So that's the how we know this, right? So I've answered all my questions: who, what, where, when, why, or how. Right? Why would we study this? Because we need alternatives, right? We may have to get off this sinking ship. I don't know. I don't want to be apocalyptic, right? It's nice to have the TRAPPIST system as 7 potential Earths, right? So that's me, right? Making all of that relevant. Okay. So that's how you write a press release. And the last thing this week, right, is your mid-quarter self-assessment. And this is where you just take, a paragraph or 2 and talk about the work that you've done, right? You want to write me a really short letter, a paragraph or 2, that just reflects on your work in this class. You can quote from your work to show things that you've learned. So essentially, you just need to justify or prove that you're learning, right? And then use that to... what grade would you give yourself at this point in the quarter, right? A, B, C, right? Let's not get complicated. A, B, or C, right? If it's a D, come talk to me. And just use your work to support that, right? Like, I learned how to write a proposal. Let me show you how I addressed a problem statement, or how I showed a real need existed in the last one. Or I learned how to write a press release. Right? Look how I translated complex data into something simple, right? That had a human angle, right? It's that simple. Just show me that you've learned. Quote from a little bit of your work, right, to back up your learning, and then just suggest a grade, right? A, B, or C, right? So this letter should not take you more than 20 minutes or so. Okay, folks. Email me. I'm always happy to Zoom. Just let me know. Thank you. Have a great week. It's like literally thundering outside right now. Bye.